recording. Hello.
Hey, man. So this is our 500 subscriber video. We just want to thank everyone for all the support and the positive comments and continuing to watch our videos. We're having a lot of fun doing this, and it's been an added, benefit to the experience that people have been interested and have been subscribing to our channel, and that's been a lot of fun. So we thought, like a lot of YouTube channels, what they do is they do this subscriber thing where when you hit a certain amount, you open it up and answer some questions from people who are subscribing and interested in the channel. So we thought we would do that today.
Yeah. So I have a list here of questions that our viewers have asked, and we'll get through as many of them as we can, and I'll share who they came from. So the first one is from Ryan Polson, and he said, great content. I have two questions. A, is your day job a financial advisor? If not, what do you do? And B, which World's promo is your favorite? Do you want to go first, Jake?
Sure. So my day job, so I'm a social worker, and I do, basically I do mental health counseling for adults and kids. And I'm not a financial advisor, but my dad is actually a financial advisor, and we talk every single day about investing and his experiences. And I've always been very interested in investing from a young age. From the time I was like 13, 14, I was, engaged in the stock market and learning about this sort of thing. So when I use a lot of terminology from different sorts of worlds, it's really coming from that relationship with my dad and learning from him, over the, past 15 years or so. And as far as the trophy card.
Favorite World's promo.
World's promo. I think my favorite art is probably the 2016 with the starters on it. Such a cool card. I showed you that card in one of our videos, Rafi, and you really like that one as well. I also like the 2015 one because it's in Boston, and that's where we are from. Rafi and I are from that area, so I have a connection to that just because of that it's from Boston from that year. How about you, Rafi?
Yeah, so I'm not a financial advisor either. I'm not a lawyer. Do not take tax or legal advice from any of us. But I did formally at some point create a venture to teach people personal finance and basic skills like investing and paying taxes and getting health insurance. And I taught a couple of personal finance related courses in university. But again, that doesn't necessarily mean you should listen to anything that I'm saying. I was gonna say, Jake, if you're doing counseling, maybe you just hold up pictures of your cards, and they're so beautiful. They just make people so happy, and like that's it. That's your job done for the day.
I have never mentioned my Pokemon card habits to any of my clients, and don't plan on it. It'll be funny if one of them sees this one day or something. But
yeah. Next question from Jonathan M. So there are a lot of questions. Maybe you just pick one or two of these that you like. What's both of your favorite Pokemon, favorite WotC set, favorite EX era set, favorite post-EX era set? Which of your PSA graded cards means the most to you? Your favorite card artwork of all time? What do you think the top 5 worst sets of all time are? Totally subjective. And what is your favorite gold star and least favorite gold star? Thanks for the great content. You come off as very genuine.
Maybe we could go through them really quick. Could you read one at a time?
What is both of your favorite Pokemon?
Favorite Pokemon. I really like Gyarados. So I always liked Gyarados when I was a kid, and Alakazam.
For me, it's Lugia. What's your favorite WotC set?
Favorite WotC set. I'm gonna go Gym Challenge.
Me too. That's
really?
Actually mine also. Yeah.
I love Gym Challenge. First set I collected when I got back into the hobby.
I love it so much. I don't know why they don't bring back the trainers Pokemon in the newer sets. They should totally do that.
Yeah.
Favorite EX era set?
Favorite EX era set. I like I don't know if I have really a favorite. I mean, I like Deoxys. Even though I hated on that Rayquaza a little bit in one of the videos, I like the art from that. There are a lot of arts that I like in that set, but I don't really have one favorite EX. I think that a number of those sets have beautiful art.
Yeah, I don't have one either. I'm actually not big on those sets. What about favorite post EX era set? For me, I think it's Ancient Origins, because that's about when I started getting back into collecting, and I love some of
Yeah.
the full arts from that set. It has full art Lugia, Tyranitar, Houndoom. Which of your PSA graded cards means the most to you?
Which one means the most to me? So I have a couple that mean a lot. I guess I have the Shadowless Zapdos that I pulled when I was a kid, and that was the first holo that I ever pulled, and I got that graded. My first Charizard ever I have graded. The base set Charizard that I pulled from pack, and then the first card I bought when I got back into the hobby as an adult was a PSA 10 first edition Gym Challenge Blaine's Charizard, and that's definitely will hold that forever. So
I have one of those ungraded. I need to submit it soon because it's in good condition, but it's also one of my favorite cards. That's actually a good lead into the next question. What's your favorite card artwork of all time? I would say that's probably a Blaine's Charizard for me.
Yeah, let's go with that. It's great.
What do you think are the top 5 worst sets? Maybe just what you think is the worst set of all time.
Oh my gosh, the worst set of all time. Oh my god. Man. I'm just gonna go for Watson. I mean, I could say like Steam Seed or one of the modern ones, but like in terms of like playability, but that's not. I don't really care that much about that, to be honest. I probably Base 2. I know you kind of like Base 2, but Base 2, and I remember as a kid just being like annoyed that they weren't giving us like more like different things, and why are they just like reprinting the same thing? And even as a kid, I found that to be like lazy and irritating.
I love Base 2 as a kid because I didn't come in with base sets as a chance to get some of those cards. But I did feel that exact way. My answer is Legendary Collection. It's like, what are they doing? Like another one of these? And like, why are the reverse holos like have like someone kind of like peed all over them? That's what it looks like to me.
Yeah.
What is your favorite Gold Star and least favorite Gold Star?
My favorite Gold Star is the Gyarados Gold Star, because I love Gyarados and I think that art is really cool. My least favorite Gold Star, nothing's really coming to mind specifically. Like one that really, I mean, probably one of like and I have this one in PSA 10, so I'm hurt, but like the Regice maybe, like one of those.
I don't like the Regis.
I just don't really.
There's like a Torchic Gold Star.
There is a Torchic Gold Star, yeah. The lowest pop Gold Star, actually.
Yeah, but like why? That's my least favorite. Like why Torchic? It's just
Yeah, they did all of the starters in that EX Team Rocket set. Yeah. And that was the only one that they did those starters, and then they did Pikachu in one of them. So but yeah.
Pikachu makes sense to me. I think my favorite's probably the Espeon.
So
our next question also is a bunch, so I'll do them one at a time. From Les Phylogenies, says, your channel is excellent, man. Here are my questions. Is there such a thing as Shadowless First Edition and Shadowless Unlimited?
So it's not called. So I think I get what you're saying. And it's not called Shadowless Unlimited. It's just called Unlimited. So there are 3 different categories, and this is just the way that these are the names for them. This is what people call them. So there's Shadowless First Edition, which has a Shadowless and the First Edition stamp. There's Shadowless, which just has that Shadowless side and not the First Edition stamp. And then there's Unlimited, which doesn't have the First Edition stamp and has that shadow.
Yep. Next question from same guy. Are children today playing as much Pokemon as we were in 2000?
So I don't know the answer to this. I do know that they're making huge amounts of money every year. I also work with kids, and I work in a school a couple days a week, and work with families. So I see kids like, playing Pokemon all the time. I see tons of videos of people getting like kids getting extremely excited, yelling, screaming when they pull, their favorite card. So I don't know the exact numbers on like what the sales data is today versus what it was back then. There are numbers on sales data today if you want to look that up, and they're huge. I've looked them up before. I don't remember them offhand, so I don't want to quote the wrong numbers. But it's still very, very popular, and these sets are being printed. Hidden Fates there are so much of these, evolutions in 2016. There was so much of that because there were a lot of people back then who came back in, and there are even more now that I think have come back in from Hidden Fates.
Next question is, what would happen for the vintage market if Pokemon hype dies down? And I guess my interpretation of this is basically, if the Pokemon hype for kids nowadays dies down, following up on his previous question, would that affect the vintage market too?
What would happen if the Pokemon Hut died down?
For kids today, would it
For
affect the
kids today?
vintage cards?
I think it would. I mean, I think that I don't think that it would right now because they're not collecting the vintage cards. And I don't think that the adults who are buying these cards are buying them primarily, because they think, I mean, maybe some percentage of adults are buying the cards right now because they think the kids will collect them, in 20 to 30 years. And some of that is in the prices. And so adults see that the prices will keep going. So they're willing to invest at a higher price than they might be. But I think overall, we actually haven't seen the growth that will happen if the kids keep playing, keep staying interested, and then come back into it. I don't think that adults, the people who are true collectors right now, aren't collecting these cards because because of the new packs and these sorts of things. So I think that this will always be a huge part of people's childhood and will always be very connected to them. You might see some retrace over time just because you're not going to get as many new people into the hobby, because I think adults, when they go into like a Walmart or a Target and they see Pokemon cards on the shelves, I think that triggers that nostalgia feeling and connection. So they look for their old cards, they get back into it. So, those are just some thoughts off the top of my head. I haven't heard any of these questions before, so hopefully.
Yeah, that last answer is really good though, and I think
Yeah.
that's absolutely a factor.
Yeah.
So this is a new person, Keandre Simmons. Question: what are 3 things that the Pokemon Company can do, in your opinion, to make products more attractive to collectors?
Yeah, really cool question. Good question.
I have like a basic one, and maybe it's what people say all the time, but just more printing consistency, right? Like, it's just so annoying to me that you could pull a card from a pack that you've kept in good shape and have it not be a PSA 10, just because they're inconsistent with printing.
So interestingly, I think, Rafi, that actually helps collectors, because if they all came out perfect, people wouldn't be grading them. There wouldn't be an interest, and there wouldn't be the fact that they're very hard to grade, I think actually will make them more collectible in the future. I actually think part of why Wizards of the Coast is more collectible than Modern is because Modern is so easy to grade. So from that collector's mindset, they always want more scarcity instead of actually just wanting a perfect card straight from a pack. Now that's for like the more long-term collector investor. I think for someone who just like loves the cards and wants the cards, they might want the perfect one and they don't care how rare it is. So in that sense, I agree with you that like the average collector might just want them to be perfect and doesn't care about the value.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, maybe they should just like, every third pack should just be crumpled up cards and like makes it that much harder to get the straight ones.
Two things that come to mind are bringing back a first edition stamp, bringing back a first edition printing, like a really small first edition printing. I don't love that idea because I think it would be okay, but I think part of I guess my mind goes to the fact that I don't love it when, and I don't love this in sports cards right now, that they do this sort of artificial scarcity and that to create the collection. I think part of what's so cool about Wizards of the Coast is that people didn't know they'd be valuable, so they beat them all up. They didn't save them. They didn't store them well. They lost them. They threw them out. They sold them for $5 at a garage sale. And if you look at like patterns of like truly valuable collectibles, like comic books, sports cards, all these sorts of things, they had that natural, organic scarcity, organic rarity, because people just didn't save them and they didn't become desirable until later. So I think creating that forced desirability, I feel mixed about. Let's see. Another big thing that could make it collectible would be doing more what the Japanese do, because the Japanese do a great job of coming out with like kind of unique, really cool promos that are very collectible because they are a lot rarer and scarcer than the English sets. And also they don't do reprints in Japan, and that destroys the collectability. So people who are investing in these boxes are wanting to collect them because they're rare, they're scarce. The fact that they might throw a reprint any moment into Hidden Fates, into any of the modern sets, makes them just less collectible in that way. But I do think, going back to what you first talked about, it is important to differentiate like what makes something collectible here. Like what do collectors value? Because I think that when you think about collectors who want to make money or want things to be valuable, that's one category. But I think Hidden Fates has been an incredible thing for collectors who just want to own cool looking cards. And so I think they like, keep making cool looking cards is the answer for people who don't care about the money and just want to collect things that they like and enjoy.
Yeah, I was going to mention that one too, because reprints, right? Very good for casual collectors and very good for players too, who want to get playable cards cheaper, like the classic Shaman Rung Skies example. But yeah, I mean, it makes it like basically uninvestable. This has been a problem with Magic too, like uninvestable in modern cards because you have no clue when they're going to reprint, the set or reprint cards in the future set. Jake and I got like a little bit burned by this because I remember we bought 2 boxes of the shiny GX set from Japan. We had no clue they were going to make these cards in English. We thought there was a possibility, but then they made Hidden Fates. It was like, well, like the value of these Japanese cards just went down because now they're English versions.
Yeah, usually. So those boxes are actually doing really well because often, even for some reason, even when English does the prints and the reprints, it doesn't necessarily affect the Japanese boxes. The Japanese modern boxes often do a lot better than the English boxes. But interestingly, that is definitely true. And we did. What was weird about Hidden Fates was that the English set came out so much after the Japanese set that many people in the community wondered if they weren't going to come out at all with a Hidden Fates like set, or if the Hidden Fates like set would be a lot smaller because the shiny GX, it was such a humongous set that they just didn't think they would move it into Hidden Fates, but they ended up printing all of those cards and printing some of them in promos. So we'll have to see how the value of those Japanese cards versus the English and all these sorts of things do in the long run.
Yeah. This next question from Mucho to the point. Mucho to the point. I like it. And this is a question I'm wondering about too, so I really want to hear your answer, Jake. Can we address the inconsistencies of PSA? Why is it hailed as the best with no accountability? BGS at least does the courtesy to grade out where the scores fall.
Yeah, great question. Great topic in general. This is a topic a lot of these questions we could do like whole videos on. I think that, at the end of the day, what is going to be healthy for this hobby is for us to all agree on using one grading source. And I think what is helpful, BGS and PSA, right, are the 2 big grading sources. And I think what gives them credibility and what gives them value is that we all use them. And so we're all comfortable with them and we all have this understanding of what the grades mean. And I think part of that contract with them is that they do a good job and keep up their end. Like, we as collectors agree that we think of you as the best, and then you have to follow through with like consistency and all these sorts of things. I personally think that PSA does a great job overall. These are mostly, like many people who are grading, they're grading millions and millions of cards, and all of the cards are, and a lot of these people don't know Pokemon cards who are grading very well, and these are not experts in the field. And I don't want to hate on anyone at PSA, but like these are like, almost anyone I think right now could apply for a job at PSA and get those card grading jobs and things like that. So they're not necessarily people with 10 years of Pokemon experience who know all the errors and are looking at all the differences. So I think it's important to understand like what their capabilities are in terms of like comparing it to BGS and the subgrades. I don't like I don't mind the subgrades, but I don't like the 9.5s because I want my cards to say 10, which is like the perfect score out of 10, or 9. I'm not a big fan of like the half grades, and I'm not a big fan just personally as a collector. As far as like accountability, I'm just not sure. I'm not sure, and maybe people in the comments, this could be something that people talk about if anyone has any like cool ideas about how to make them more accountable. But in reality, like in a lot of ways, we're sort of at the mercy of them, and we hope that they're honest and fair and do a good job. There've been like certain scandals that have come out on PSA and other sorts of things that people can look up where they're afraid that people are making deals, like certain buyers have deals with PSA where they grade their cards higher. My experience in buying lots and lots of graded cards and grading lots and lots of cards, they have been very, very fair with me. I've gotten mostly, if not all, not all, but mostly the grades that I thought I deserved. Sometimes I get higher, sometimes I get a little bit lower. And the cards that I've bought online have almost always been, have made sense for the grade. You do see occasional, things that I disagree with, but it's rare that there's something that I disagree with really strongly. And I would hope that sort of the market pressure, like we're not going to keep using PSA if they don't do a good job. Yes, these companies do have a fairly monopoly, but sort of, we live in a capitalistic world here, and hopefully the pressure that we put on them to continue maintaining their grading standards because of like public outlets like this where we can talk about them will keep them honest and keep them from doing anything really sleazy or just not having good quality control. But that's something we always have to monitor as collectors, is what is their quality control like. The last thing I'll say on it is there have been people recently who feel like PSA has gotten more difficult, that the grading standards have gone up, and they're still grading equally across the board, but the grading is they're not giving as many 10s and these sorts of things now. There are also theories that they tend not to give 10s on very valuable cards to keep them valuable so that people keep submitting. And I think all these things are very like fair things. And you really see that in sports cards even more than Pokemon. You see sports cards where they like the best card in the set, like the chase card, the Michael Jordan, the Charizard, is often harder to grade, sort of inexplicably, than some of the other cards, just because it's more valuable and they want to keep that price up. Those have been the theories. All of this is unsubstantiated. All of this is speculation. And at the end of the day, I go with PSA because they are the standard. I'm comfortable with them, and I've had continued good experiences with them. So,
yeah. Do you know why sometimes PSA does do half grades? Like I've seen like 8.5s before.
Sure. I mean, so it's just the idea is just that it falls between those two categories.
But it just happens a lot less rarely than it does with BGS to get like a 0.5 with PSA.
I believe it happened. I mean 8.5s. So PSA doesn't do the 9.5. They just do an 8.5. So that's also probably why it's rare. But yeah, but there are I think there are a lot of cards that probably do fall really between that 9 and 10 point. And they could get 9.5s, but instead PSA just gives them a 9 or a 10. And I just prefer that because it's a cleaner differentiation. In terms of the look, I like the look of both. I don't really necessarily prefer. I think I mean maybe I slightly like PSA better because it's just less bulky. It's a sleeker card, and I have so many of these that it's easier to store. But yeah, hopefully I answered the question there.
Yeah, I think that was a good answer. This one's really quick. From Baseball Euphoria, do you own a PSA 10 Hollow Skarmory from Expedition?
I do not, unfortunately. So I have been trying to complete that set for 3 years since I got into the hobby. So that card only has like 6, I believe, in the PSA 10s.
And do you know why it's so few?
It's the lowest one. I think that, and like there's another card. There's a card in Legendary. I think it's like the Dark Blastoise, like reverse or something, also has pop 6. But those are the 2 lowest like hollow, cards that people want. Would want in PSA 10 that lots of things would actually be graded, so there'd be that incentive. So you'd think there'd be a somewhat fleshed out pop report. But why? So I have no idea. Maybe placement on the sheet. Who knows? With these sorts of specifics on why a specific card, is harder to grade.
I'm curious for cards like that you're going after, right? I know you as a collector, you typically wait till you can get a good deal on something, or you think that something's undervalued to buy it. But if there's a very desirable card that there are very few of in the world, would you just snap at like any opportunity to buy it if it came up on the market?
So I am not like a 10 collector, so I don't desperately feel like a need to collect all these things in 10s. I would like to collect them all in 10s. But so like, for example, like I have multiple 9s and I have multiple 10s of the Japanese variation of that card. I think I have like 3 or 4 PSA 10 in Japanese and maybe 3 or 4 9s or something. And so I don't feel like, oh my gosh, I have this like giant hole in my collection that needs to be filled. And so I would only purchase that card if I felt like the price was reasonable. If someone offered me that card at what I thought was like a crazy price, I wouldn't purchase it. Because I'd much rather use that money to buy like a cool trophy card that I like. And I'm always going to enjoy, I think, the trophy cards more than a card like that. Which I just kind of want, for its rarity, scarcity, and completing the set. And I love Expedition. I love that set. It's one of my favorite sets.
Got it. I think this will be the last question we take for today, but it's a good one. So David Ridgway asks, I have a question about the hyper rare Charizard GX, PSA 10 for Burning Shadows. Why are people posting the card for almost 4K, 3.7, 3.5K, when the highest sold was like 1,500 for the last couple? So I know there's only a couple available, but I feel like this is ruining it for people that want to collect. Because I was going to buy it 1,600, the very next day raised it to 3,700. And for what? If they didn't buy it 1,600, why would they pay 3,700? Ugh, I'm so frustrated. So my summary of this question is, first of all, that specific card, right? Why is it going up so fast? And second of all, like, why do people raise their prices on eBay before there's indication that something is
selling? So I don't know exactly what this person has in mind, but I can certainly take a guess in terms of the seller on eBay and why they're doing that. I would imagine that they see the raising prices. Either one of two things: they're in no rush to sell the card. Either they sincerely want to sell the card and they're in no rush to sell the card. One possibility. Another possibility is this guy has multiple accounts and he's raising the price. He has multiple copies of this card. And so he's raising the prices so that eyes get used to seeing that higher price. People start to think, oh, that card is worth a lot more. Oh, that card is going up so fast, I better jump in and get it. And that fear of missing out. So this is market manipulation going on, guys. So when you see people continuing to raise their prices like that, you have to figure out, why are they doing that? Is this card really selling at those higher prices? Is this a good time to jump in and buy that card? Now, because PSA has been closed, there's been a shortage of supply. This is not a good time, in my opinion, and you do whatever you guys want to do. But we've seen jumps in a lot of the modern Charizards right now. You know, and XY Evolutions is another example of this. We've seen a big jump in that card, the Mega Charizard from that card. Part of that is because PSA has been closed, and so there's been no new supply on the market. These cards are going to have a lot more supply in the future. Now, the Burning Shadows Charizard, as I've said in my videos before, that's the best one, I think. That's the one that makes the most sense for me, based on its price history, based on its popularity, based on the fact it was that first Rainbow Rare. It's going to have a history and a connection to all the kids that are they're collecting today and into the future, and also adults now. You know, but the pop numbers will continue to go up. Those cards are going to come back on the market. You know, I understand your frustration. Patience. You know, having patience is really important. Those boxes are still selling for like last time I checked, $120 sealed. There are many more Burning Shadows booster boxes out there that are going to be opened, and there are going to be many more opportunities for this card to come on the market and for you to buy these cards. Okay, compared to the Wizards of the Coast, compared to the vintage, compared to the old stuff. Now, I can't promise you anything. It's possible that some rich people will come in and buy all of these, right? And no matter what comes on the market, they'll just keep buying them, they'll keep absorbing them, or the hobby just gets so popular, so big, that even 5,000 PSA 10 copies of that card, which would be, you know, a huge, I'm guessing the PSA 10 population is 600-700 right now in PSA 10, maybe 800 now for the Burning Shadows Charizard. You know, but you know, even if that goes up 5-10 times, it's possible one day there are enough people in the hobby where that card just rarely comes on the market and is pretty unusual to find. We don't know the answer to that right now, but right now I would say there are just much better places to put your money in, particularly, and try not to chase those prices up, and try not to let that fear of missing out cause you to fall for those types of things. And as I said before, I really would guess that people are doing that because they're trying to, and I see channels do this, and this is a really bad thing. When you hear someone talking about the value of the card is what it's being sold for, or the asking price on eBay, and doesn't go to sold listings. So I hear channels talking about, this card is going for this amount, that's how much it's worth. No, that's the asking price. The asking price could be ludicrously over what the majority of people are willing to pay for it right now. So you have to go to sold listings on eBay, see what the last few are sold. And if there's just one or two sold at a new price, those could be shill buys. Those could be buys from the person who owns 15 of them, particularly for these modern cards. So be very careful when buying those modern cards. Look at the price history, understand you need to see many of those cards being bought at a certain price to feel comfortable that that's that price, particularly in this crazy time, in these crazy movements.
Yeah, okay. That's a really good answer. And I would just supplement one thing, which is like people in, this is a typical concept in finance, right? That fall prey to results oriented thinking. Like I regret pretty much every sale I've ever made of Pokemon cards because everything's gone up. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it was a bad decision at the time, right? Like nobody could have predicted the future. And obviously you can have your bets and you can make good bets. But in general, just because the market has always been going up doesn't necessarily mean it was a bad decision to sell in the past given what you knew. Or if you didn't snap up that Charizard at $1,600, you couldn't have predicted it would have gone up. So it doesn't necessarily mean that it was a mistake, right? And I think it's just really important to keep in mind, like people often attribute their good results to success, or to their good success to luck, to skill rather than luck, right? Whereas in fact, there's an equal amounts of luck and skill involved in a lot of these things. So typically when people have bad results, they just say like, oh, I got unlucky, not like I made a bad decision. And the hardest thing to do in anything with investing, including Pokemon, is just to be honest with yourself, right? How much of that decision I make was a good decision, well-informed, I made good predictions and took a lot of data into account, versus how much I just get lucky or unlucky. And in this case, it sounds like, honestly, you might have just gotten unlucky and following Jake's advice and being patient makes sense to me. All right, well, this is our first Q&A video, so I guess now there is an incentive for people to subscribe so that we will do another one of these in the future. Is that right?
And we have more questions, right, Rafi?
We do. So maybe we can get to those in a second video.
So we'll do a part 2 for you guys, I guess, because we want to make sure we answer everyone's questions. I think both of us need to run and go to our day jobs now. Yeah, thank you so much for watching. And as Rafi said, please subscribe. We're definitely interested in growing and being a bigger channel, in part because that'll help us reach more people. And the idea of that's exciting, to be able to communicate to more people. Yeah, so thanks a lot.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Stay tuned. Bye.